I swear to God, Eliza, we're still taking everyone to Cedar Point next weekend. Your dad already requested the time off work. Mom's voice crackled through my phone speaker as I stared at the unopened suitcase on my bedroom floor. The same suitcase that had been packed and ready for the last 3 definite family trips that never happened. Sure, Mom. See you Saturday. I hung up and tossed my phone onto the bed, not bothering to mark the date on my calendar. What was the point? In the Coleman family, promises were as sturdy as sandcastles at high tide. Growing up in Westlake, Ohio, meant sticky summers and frozen winters, but it also meant witnessing the stark contrast between how my parents treated their 2 daughters. My sister Vanessa was the golden child, married young to her high school sweetheart, gave Mom and Dad 3 perfect grandchildren by 30, and settled just 4 blocks away from our childhood home. Me? I was the disappointment who moved 40 minutes away to Cleveland, remained stubbornly single at 32, and chose a career in environmental law over starting a family. I stared at the text that came in from my sister that evening. Can't wait for Cedar Point. The kids are already picking which rides they want to go on first. Micah's finally tall enough for the big coasters. I typed back, sounds fun, and set my phone down without adding the, if it happens. That lingered in my mind. 3 days later, the cancellation came right on schedule. Your father has that thing with the Rotary Club, and you know how important networking is for his business. We're thinking maybe Labor Day weekend instead? Mom's voice had that familiar, apologetic tone that had long stopped sounding sincere. No problem, I replied automatically, already changing into sweatpants instead of the shorts I'd laid out for the weekend. Things happen. Things always happened. For 15 years, things had been happening. Dad's work emergencies, Mom's migraines, unexpected visits from distant relatives, weather concerns, car troubles. The excuses varied, but the pattern remained consistent. Family activities that included me got canceled, while trips with Vanessa's family proceeded without a hitch. Last Christmas, I'd sat through an entire dinner listening to my parents and Vanessa's family excitedly recap their Thanksgiving trip to Gatlinburg, a trip I'd originally been invited to before being told it was canceled due to budget concerns. The photos they shared showed no evidence of financial restraint. We'll make it up to you, Dad had said, squeezing my shoulder. We're thinking Disney World in February. The whole family. I'd nodded and smiled while mentally calculating how many times I'd heard that exact promise. At least 7. The breaking point came in April, on my birthday. Mom had insisted on planning a special weekend at a lakeside cabin in Sandusky. Just the immediate family, she'd emphasized. Quality time together. I'd taken Friday off work, declined plans with friends, and even splurged on a new swimsuit. Thursday night, I was zipping up my overnight bag when my phone buzzed. Hey, honey. Slight change of plans. Your cousin Meredith and her boys are in town unexpectedly, so we're switching to a day at the zoo on Saturday instead. Hope that's okay. It'll still be fun. I stared at the text until the words blurred. Something hardened inside me as I typed back. No problem. See you Saturday. But Saturday morning, I didn't get in my car. I didn't drive the 40 minutes to my parents' house. Instead, I hiked through Cuyahoga Valley National Park, took myself to lunch at my favorite cafe, and watched a movie alone. My phone buzzed all day with increasingly concerned messages from my family, but I let them go unanswered until evening. Where are you? Everyone's been waiting. Mom's text read, sorry, something came up. Work emergency. Rain check? I replied, using their own excuses against them. The phone calls started immediately. I declined them all. The following day, I drove to my parents' house, mentally rehearsing what I'd say. I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't cry. I would simply state facts and stand my ground. Vanessa's minivan was in the driveway. Of course it was. The family tribunal was already assembled. What the hell, Eliza? Vanessa started the moment I walked through the door. Her husband Todd sat awkwardly on the couch, their kids playing in the backyard visible through the sliding glass door. You couldn't even bother to call. Mom and Dad had already bought the zoo tickets. The kids were looking forward to seeing their aunt. Mom stepped in, her expression a practiced mix of hurt and concern. We were worried sick. This isn't like you, honey. Dad remained in his recliner, frowning over his reading glasses. Pretty inconsiderate, Liz. Not to mention childish. I set my purse down carefully on the entryway table and took a deep breath. When was the last time a planned family activity that included me actually happened? The question hung in the air, meeting blank stares. What are you talking about? We do family things all the time, Vanessa said. No, no, I corrected her. You do family things all the time, with mom and dad. I get invited and then uninvited consistently for years. Mom's face flushed. That's not fair. Things come up. You know how busy life gets. Funny how things only come up when I'm involved. I pulled out my phone and opened my calendar app. Labor Day trip to Put-in-Bay last year? Canceled because Dad had a cold, but 3 days later, there were Facebook photos of all of you on the island without me. Dad shifted uncomfortably. That was different. I felt better, and it was too late to call you. Christmas cabin trip 2 years ago? Canceled due to budget concerns. But then you took Vanessa's family to Niagara Falls that same weekend. That was a last-minute deal through Todd's work, Mom protested weakly. Memorial Day barbecue at Uncle Steve's? You told me it was postponed, but it wasn't. 4th of July fireworks viewing? You said it was too crowded this year, but you all went without me. I scrolled through my phone. I have screenshots of all the excuses and photos of all the events that mysteriously happened anyway. The silence in the room grew thick. So yesterday, yes, I made other plans, I continued, because I knew, based on 15 years of evidence, that something would change at the last minute. And it did. My birthday weekend cabin trip became a zoo day with Meredith's family. You're being paranoid, Vanessa said, but her voice lacked conviction. And honestly, kind of selfish. It's not always about you. That's exactly my point, I replied calmly. It's never about me, and I've accepted that. I've stopped expecting to be included in this family in any meaningful way. Mom's eyes welled with tears, her standard response when confronted. How can you say that? We love you. We always want you around. You want the idea of me around, I corrected her. The daughter who shows up when convenient and disappears when not. Well, I'm done playing that role. I picked up my purse and headed for the door. So that's it? You're just going to walk out? Dad called after me. I turned back. I'm going to start taking you at your word. When you cancel, I'll believe you. When you make plans, I won't. And I'll make my own life with people who actually show up. The next 6 months were quiet. I received the usual holiday invitations, which I politely declined. I sent gifts for my niece and nephew's birthdays, but didn't attend the parties. When family gossip reached me through well-meaning aunts, I listened without comment. I focused on my work, joined a rowing club on Lake Erie, started dating a kind veterinarian named Marcus, and renovated my small Cleveland Heights bungalow. I was building a life that didn't hinge on family validation, and the freedom was intoxicating. Then came the annual Coleman family reunion in August, a tradition that drew relatives from across 3 states to converge on a rented pavilion at Mohican State Park. An event too important to skip without raising eyebrows. I arrived alone, carrying a store-bought pasta salad and wearing emotional armor. The usual suspects were already there. Aunt Linda with her judgmental squint, Uncle Steve manning the grill with military precision, cousins orbiting in their established social hierarchies, and my parents holding court near the dessert table. Vanessa intercepted me before I could set down my contribution. You actually came, she said, surprise evident in her voice. Mom wasn't sure you would. I RSVP'd yes, I replied simply. Yeah, but after everything. She trailed off, suddenly fascinated by her paper plate of potato chips. After everything, I still show up when I say I will, I finished for her. Unlike some people. I moved past her toward the food tables, exchanging brief greetings with relatives along the way. Mom spotted me and hurried over, arms outstretched for a hug I reluctantly accepted. You look wonderful, honey. We've missed you so much. Your father was just saying last week how quiet the house seems without you dropping by. I nodded, not bothering to point out that my dropping by had always been at their specific invitation, never spontaneous. The pasta salad is store-bought. I know Aunt Linda prefers homemade, but time got away from me. Oh, that's fine, Mom waved dismissively. No one will notice. Oh, before I forget, we're planning a big Christmas trip this year. A cruise. The whole family, we really want you to come. I smiled politely. Sounds nice? Send me the details. Her face lit up. So you'll think about it? It's going to be wonderful. Your father's already put down deposits. I'll think about it, I repeated, knowing I wouldn't. The reunion proceeded predictably. Uncle Steve got tipsy and told the same World Series story from 1997. Cousin Meredith's kids ran wild until one inevitably got hurt. Dad dominated the horseshoe competition. By mid-afternoon, I was mentally calculating how soon I could leave without seeming rude. I was helping clean up discarded paper plates when I overheard my name from behind the pavilion. Curiosity got the better of me, and I quietly moved closer to listen. Just don't understand what Eliza's problem is, my mother was saying to Aunt Linda. She acts like we've committed some terrible crime against her. Kids today, everything's a trauma, Aunt Linda replied. In our day, we didn't expect our parents to cater to our every whim. Exactly. And it's not like we excluded her on purpose. Life happens, plans change. She always was the sensitive one. Remember how she'd cry when you'd drop her off at dance class? Mom laughed. Oh God, yes, Vanessa was always so independent, but Eliza needed constant reassurance. Some people just have a victim mentality, Aunt Linda said sagely. They look for reasons to feel left out. Well, she's certainly committed to it now, barely speaks to us anymore, and when she does, it's like talking to a stranger. You should be firmer with her. Tell her to stop this nonsense and rejoin the family. She's not getting any younger, you know? Still single, no kids. I'd heard enough. I walked away quietly, a strange calm settling over me. Their words should have hurt, but instead, they confirmed what I'd already suspected. In their minds, I was the problem. The unreasonable daughter, the difficult one, the disappointment. For a moment, I considered confronting them, laying out the evidence, demanding acknowledgement. But what would it achieve? More denials, more tears, more gaslighting. Instead, I found my father by the coolers, helping himself to another beer. I'm heading out, Dad, I said. He glanced at his watch. Already? It's not even 4. I have plans tonight. On family reunion day. He looked genuinely puzzled, as if the concept of me having a life outside their orbit was incomprehensible. Yes, with Marcus. I hadn't mentioned my relationship to my parents yet, and the surprise on my father's face was worth the revelation. Marcus? Who's Marcus? The man I've been seeing for the past 5 months. Dad's expression shifted from surprise to hurt. 5 months? And you didn't think to tell us? I shrugged. Must have slipped my mind during all our deep conversations. The sarcasm wasn't lost on him. His jaw tightened. Your mother will be upset you're leaving early. I'm sure she'll survive. Tell everyone goodbye for me. As I walked to my car, I felt his eyes on my back. For the first time, I didn't care if they were angry or disappointed. Their approval no longer dictated my worth. The real shift came in November, when Vanessa called me out of the blue on a Tuesday evening. Can we meet for coffee? She asked, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. Just us. We arranged to meet at a neutral location, a cafe in Lakewood, halfway between our homes. She was already there when I arrived, fidgeting with a sugar packet, 2 full cups of coffee on the table. Thanks for coming, she said as I sat down. I wasn't sure you would. I said I would, I replied simply. She nodded, seeming to absorb the implied criticism. After a moment of awkward silence, she spoke. I've been thinking about what you said, about the cancellations and everything. I waited, giving her space to continue. At first, I thought you were exaggerating, being dramatic. She stared into her coffee, but then I started paying attention to how they talk about plans with you versus plans with me, to how quickly they change things when it's just you involved. She looked up. You're right. They do it all the time. The validation was unexpected. Why the sudden realization? Todd pointed it out, actually, after the reunion. He asked why you always seem so distant, and I told him about our fight. He made me look back at all the family events over the years. She pulled out her phone. I even made a spreadsheet. In the past 3 years, they've canceled plans with you 17 times. With me? Twice. And both times were for actual emergencies. I sipped my coffee, unsure how to respond. I'm sorry, Eliza, she said quietly. I should have noticed. I should have said something. Why didn't you? She sighed. Honestly, because it worked in my favor. Mom and Dad were always available for babysitting, for helping with the kids' stuff. They drop everything for us. She looked ashamed. It was easier not to question it. The admission hurt, but I appreciated her honesty. So why are you telling me this now? Because it's wrong. And because, she hesitated, because I miss my sister. We used to be close. Remember? Before all this family drama took over. We had been close once, sharing secrets and clothes and dreams. Before marriage and children and parental favoritism had created an invisible barrier between us. I do remember, I acknowledged. Mom and Dad are planning their anniversary dinner next month, she continued. They want everyone there. 40 years is a big deal. I already told them I can't make it. I know. They're upset. But here's the thing. I checked your excuse. You said you have a conference in Columbus that weekend. She raised an eyebrow. There's no environmental law conference in Columbus that weekend. I checked the Ohio Bar Association calendar. Caught in my own game, I shrugged. So I lied. They've taught me well. That's just it, Vanessa leaned forward. I don't want us to become like them, lying to each other, manipulating situations. I want us to be honest, even when it's hard. What exactly are you asking me to do? Come to the anniversary dinner. Bring Marcus. I want to meet him. And I'll make sure Mom and Dad don't pull any last-minute changes. I'll hold them accountable. I studied my sister's face, looking for signs of insincerity or manipulation. Finding none, I considered her proposal. And if they try to change things? Then we both leave. Together. Show them they can't treat you this way anymore. It was a peace offering, an alliance, a chance to rebuild what had been broken. I'll think about it, I said finally. That's all I'm asking. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand, the first genuine contact between us in years. The anniversary dinner was held at Lucia's, an upscale Italian restaurant in Shaker Heights. I arrived precisely on time, Marcus beside me in a crisp blue shirt that matched his eyes. My stomach was a knot of anticipation and dread. Remember, I whispered as we entered the restaurant, these people are experts at making everything seem perfect to outsiders. Don't be fooled. He squeezed my hand. I'm here for you, not them. The private dining room was already filled with familiar faces. Mom, resplendent in a new dress, holding court with her sisters. Dad, looking uncomfortable in a tie, nursing a scotch by the window. Vanessa and Todd corralling their children at the far end of the table. Mom spotted us first, her face lighting up with rehearsed joy. Eliza, you made it! She hurried over, arms outstretched. And this must be Marcus. We've heard so little about you. Marcus smiled politely as she embraced him. Congratulations on 40 years, Mrs. Coleman. That's quite an achievement. Oh, call me Laura, please. We don't stand on ceremony in this family. We're huggers, not handshakers. She linked her arm through his, already pulling him toward my father. Come meet Richard. He's been dying to meet the man who finally caught our Eliza's eye. I watched them go, feeling a familiar sense of being sidelined in my own family narrative. Before resentment could build, Vanessa appeared at my side. You came, she said, relief evident in her voice. I said I would. She nodded, understanding the weight of those words. Everything's set. Dinner at 7, cake at 8, speeches, then we're done by 9:30. No changes, no surprises. We'll see, I replied, not quite ready to trust the newfound stability. The dinner actually proceeded as planned. Dad gave a mercifully brief speech about love and compromise. Mom cried at the appropriate moments. The food was excellent, and Marcus charmed everyone with stories from his veterinary practice. By the time dessert arrived, I had almost relaxed. Then Mom tapped her glass for attention. Before we wrap up this wonderful evening, I have an exciting announcement. She beamed around the table. Your father and I have been planning something special to celebrate our milestone. We've booked a family vacation house in Hilton Head for Christmas week. All expenses paid. Our gift to our children and grandchildren. Excited murmurs rippled around the table. Mom continued, We'll have the whole week together. Beach time, golf for those who play, and making memories as a complete family. Her eyes lingered meaningfully on me. The implication was clear. This was the olive branch. The grand gesture to make up for years of exclusion. The house has 7 bedrooms, Dad added. Plenty of room for everyone, including Marcus if he'd like to join us. He nodded toward my boyfriend, who looked surprised but pleased at the invitation. Before I could respond, Vanessa spoke up. That sounds wonderful, Mom. What dates exactly? December 22nd through the 29th. We've already put down the deposit. Vanessa glanced at me, then back to our mother. And this is definitely confirmed? No chance of cancellation? A flicker of annoyance crossed Mom's face. Of course it's confirmed. Why would we cancel our anniversary gift? Well, Vanessa said casually, you've canceled quite a few trips with Eliza before. I just want to make sure this one's different. The table fell silent. Mom's smile froze. I don't know what you're talking about. We've had to reschedule some things over the years, but that happens in every family. Actually, Vanessa pulled out her phone, I've been keeping track. In the past 3 years alone, you've canceled 17 planned activities with Eliza. Would you like me to list them? Mom's face flushed. This is hardly the time or place, Vanessa. I disagree, my sister continued. If we're celebrating 40 years of honesty and commitment, let's be honest about how this family operates, how we've let Eliza become the perpetual outsider. Dad cleared his throat. Now hold on. No, you hold on, Vanessa interrupted, a steel in her voice I'd never heard before. I've stood by for years watching this happen. Eliza tries to be part of this family, and you constantly push her away, then act surprised when she finally stops trying. Marcus reached for my hand under the table, a silent show of support as my sister continued her unexpected defense. The Cedar Point trip? Canceled because of Dad's Rotary Club thing that mysteriously disappeared when it was just my kids going. Eliza's birthday cabin weekend suddenly became a zoo trip with Meredith's family. Vanessa's voice was steady, factual. You do this every time, then gaslight her when she calls you out on it. Mom's eyes filled with tears. How can you say such things on our anniversary? Because if we don't say them now, nothing will change, Vanessa replied. And I want things to change. I want my sister back in this family, really in it, not just when it's convenient for everyone else. Dad, looking genuinely confused, turned to me. Liz, is this how you feel? That we exclude you deliberately? All eyes turned to me. For years, I'd imagined this confrontation, rehearsed cutting remarks and dramatic exits. But sitting there, surrounded by family both dysfunctional and dear, I felt a strange calm. Yes, I said simply. It's exactly how I feel, because it's exactly what happens. But this trip is different, Mom insisted. We really want you there. Like you wanted me at the Gatlinburg trip, or the Niagara Falls weekend, or any of the other family events that mysteriously went on without me after being canceled? Mom's tears spilled over. Dad looked away, uncomfortable with the undeniable truth. Here's what's going to happen, I said, surprising myself with my steady voice. You're going to Hilton Head for Christmas. You'll post the photos on Facebook and tell everyone what a wonderful family time you had. But I won't be there. Eliza, please, Mom began. I held up a hand. Not because I'm bitter or holding a grudge, but because I've made other plans. Plans with people who want me around consistently, not just when it's convenient. What plans? Dad demanded. Marcus and I are going to Mexico for Christmas week. The tickets are already booked. I hadn't told anyone, not even Vanessa. We'll celebrate with you before we leave, or after we return. But I'm not canceling my plans for another family trip that might disappear. The silence around the table was deafening. Finally, Aunt Linda spoke up. Well, I think you're being very selfish, Eliza. Your parents are offering a generous gift, and you're throwing it back in their faces. I turned to her calmly. You're entitled to your opinion, Aunt Linda, just as I'm entitled to make my own holiday plans. It's always about you, isn't it? She continued. Poor Eliza, so mistreated, so misunderstood. Actually, Vanessa interrupted, it's never been about Eliza. That's the whole problem. Todd nodded in agreement, and suddenly the table was divided. Those who understood and those who didn't want to. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. I don't understand why you're doing this to us, on our anniversary of all days. I'm not doing anything to you, Mom. I'm simply stating facts and making my own choices. I love you both, but I don't trust your promises anymore. And without trust, what do we have? Dad, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke. You really feel this way? That we've pushed you aside? Yes, I said softly, for years. He nodded slowly, a realization dawning in his eyes. I never saw it, but looking back, you're right. He turned to my mother. Laura, we've done this. Not intentionally, maybe, but we've done it. Mom shook her head in denial, but Dad continued. No, think about it. The Gatlinburg trip, the cabin weekend, Cedar Point. We always had an excuse, but somehow things worked out when it was just Vanessa's family. He looked at me with genuine regret. I'm sorry, Liz. We failed you. His acknowledgement, something I'd never expected, knocked the wind out of me. For years, I'd been fighting against denial and gaslighting. His simple admission felt like the ground shifting beneath my feet. "Thank you for saying that," I managed. Mom, seeing the tide turning, quickly adopted a wounded expression. "I had no idea you felt so excluded, honey. You should have said something sooner." Vanessa snorted. "She did, Mom, multiple times. You just didn't listen." "Well," Mom sniffed, "I'm listening now, and I'm hurt that you'd choose a trip with your boyfriend over family Christmas." "That's your choice," I replied. "You can be hurt, or you can understand that I'm setting boundaries after years of disappointment." Marcus, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. "If I may," he said gently, "it seems like there's a lot of healing needed here. Maybe instead of focusing on one holiday, you could start rebuilding trust in smaller ways? Regular dinners, consistent plans that don't get canceled?" The suggestion, coming from an outsider, somehow landed differently than if I'd said it. Dad nodded thoughtfully. "That's not a bad idea. We could do Sunday dinners. Every week, no excuses." "I'd like that," I said cautiously, "as long as they actually happen." "They will," Dad promised, and for the first time in years, I felt a tiny flicker of belief. The following Sunday, I arrived at my parents' house at the agreed-upon time of 5 o'clock. I'd brought wine, but no expectations. To my surprise, not only were my parents there, but Vanessa and her family as well. The table was set, the house smelled of Dad's famous pot roast, and no one acted as if this was anything unusual. "Right on time," Dad said, taking the wine. "Just like always." We settled into an evening that felt almost normal, the kind of family gathering I'd stopped believing was possible. The conversation was sometimes awkward, the newfound honesty still uncomfortable for everyone. But it was real. As we finished dessert, Mom hesitantly approached the subject we'd all been dancing around. "About Christmas. We understand you've made other plans, but we'd really like to see you before you go." "How about December 21st?" I suggested. "We don't fly out until the 22nd. "Perfect," Dad said before Mom could complicate things. "We'll do Christmas Eve a few days early." Vanessa raised her glass. "To new traditions and keeping our promises." I clinked my glass against hers, then against my parents'. "To showing up when we say we will." The next Sunday dinner happened exactly as planned, and the one after that, and the one after that. Trust rebuilds slowly, like a house after a storm. One nail, one board, one wall at a time. I don't know if my relationship with my parents will ever be completely healed. Some wounds leave permanent scars, but for the first time in years, I'm allowing myself to hope. Marcus and I are going to Mexico for Christmas. We'll swim in turquoise waters and eat dinner on the beach and make memories that belong just to us. And when we return, my family will be waiting. Not the perfect family of my childhood dreams, but a real family, learning to see each other clearly and love each other anyway. And next year, who knows? Maybe we'll all go to Hilton Head after all. But on my terms, with my eyes open and my heart cautiously, tentatively willing to believe again.